Hi guys. So in this little video, I'm going to touch upon the levels of study within ecology. So ecology is a very large field. It's looking at the interactions between living things and the environment. And in case you haven't noticed, the environment can be a really big thing, as in globally big. Right? Theoretically, we could even say the universe is an environment, right? So we could look at ecology on a universal scale. At the same time, ecology could just as readily be looking at the interaction between an ant and a spider. So the scope of ecology changes vastly depending upon what we want to study at that given moment. And so in order to keep things clean or keep things well divided or compartmentalized, we have broken down the study of ecology into levels. So we start here in my little PowerPoint, not PowerPoint, what is this thing? Blackboard? My little blackboard here at the smallest level of study. And that is the organism level of study. That is an individual creature. So if I'm looking at space zebras, right, that individual space zebra is my organism. That's what level I'm at. Okay? I take a bunch of space zebras and I put them on Pluto. I'm like, I want to study the population of space zebras on Pluto. That's a population, a group of the same species within a defined area. Now, you can study a population of any given size of area. Right? I can study the population of space zebras in my trash bin. There are no space zebras in my trash bin, so it'd be a really quick study, right? But I could do that. It can be any defined area. And the researcher who's doing the study is the one who's going to define that area. Usually there's some reason or rhyme to the definition of the area, right? But it will depend on the study at hand. If you take all of the populations within a given area, you are then talking about a community. So a community is the study of all the biotic factors in a defined area. So any of the living things or the products of the living things in that area is the study of community. Okay? So this does not include abiotic factors. So if I'm looking at the interaction between frogs and fishes within a pond, that is a community. Okay? The frogs and the fishes are the community. The pond is not included. The pond is abiotic. The pond in that case just serves as a defined area. Now pretend I want to include something about the quality of the water in the pond within that study, right? So I want to talk about how pH level of pond water impacts the study, or rather impacts the interaction between frogs and fishes. Now I'm talking about an ecosystem. Okay? I've included the biotic factors and the abiotic factors of that area. It's an ecosystem. Not to be confused with the predefined typical ecosystem. Right? So the term ecosystem is used in a couple different ways within the study of ecology. So like you have predefined ecosystems with expectations of certain conditions. Right? So I could say the ocean ecosystem, the marine ecosystem. Right? Then that talks about how these factors are existing within oceans. And I have certain expectations of the ocean. It's going to be salty. I'm going to find fish there. There might be some sharks, which are a type of fish. And there might be some octopuses, which are a type of mollusca, cephalopods, adorable, right? Related to clams, related to snails. Octopuses are cool. I digress. So ecosystems. When we're talking about the study of ecosystems as an ecological level, we're just talking about the biotic factors and abiotic factors in a defined area. You can define it whatever size you want it to be. Okay. Then we move up and we talk about biomes. Okay. So if you're talking about the interaction between two ecosystems, that's now a biome. It could be three ecosystems, the way that they interact with one another. That's a biome. Now, in order to properly define your biome, those ecosystems have to be distinct. Right? So like looking at my trash bin and looking at my recycling bin, if I define those as ecosystems, I couldn't define that as a biome. Like the interaction between my trash bin ecosystem and my recycling bin ecosystem wouldn't be a biome because the conditions of those two ecosystems are too similar. They're not distinct. So this would be more like the marine ecosystem interacting with the interior coastal ecosystem, right? Like how does the weather in the interior coastal ecosystem impact the climate of the coastal system, right? So if I have mountains right next to the ocean, what does that do to the way that the ocean operates as opposed to if I have a prairie right next to the ocean? Right? Those are biomes. And the largest level of organization that I have here is what we call the biosphere. And the biosphere is all of the living things on the planet. Okay, so all of the biotic factors on the planet and the space that they exist within. Right? And so all the way down to the bottom of Mariana's Trench, if there's life there, all the way up to the tippity tops of our atmosphere, if there's life there, everything in between is the biosphere. Again, this is another term in ecology that we use it in a couple different ways. Sometimes we talk about the biosphere specifically as just the living things, like the biomass. Right? So the biomass is literally the mass of all the living things in a defined area. Right? So you can talk about the biosphere, like we'll talk about carbon moving into the biosphere, and that's moving from inorganic to living things. We'll get there. But yeah, those are the levels of ecology and ecological study. Cool? Bye.